Academia was all about you, your methods, your experiments, your publications, your conferences, but industry interview is not about you. That one shift, if you get this right, then it changes how you prepare for your industry interviews, how you walk in, and how you answer every single question. And if you don't get it, then no matter how good your research is, you will walk out of the interview wondering what went wrong. So today in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 differences in industry and academic interviews from a psychological point of view so that you can approach it from that aspect. And I'll be sharing the real stories from what's happening inside my community so that it's just not sounding theoretical, but you get to know what is actually happening and working. Hi, I'm Dr. Rima Dey, a Smart Dumb PhD, and I have a community of PhDs who are actively transitioning into consultancy, tech, and pharma from 7+ countries inside my Smart Dumb PhD community. With that, let's jump into the 5 psychological differences between academic and industry interviews. Number 1, academic interviews is all about you, while industry interviews is all about them. Now, what do I mean by that? So in academia, you spend almost 5, 6, or maybe 7 years again in understanding and explaining to your professors, peers, or other professors in other institutes that why did you choose to do this work, what methods you used, where did you get published, what conferences you attended. Everything is about your work, your methods, your publications. Every tiny detail in your research is all about how you did it. However, when it comes to industry interviews, the hirers are not interested in every tiny detail of your research until they know how that helps them to solve their problems. So I keep coming back to one example, which is my favorite example, which is as academicians and researchers, when we are applying to journals to submit our papers, we tend to fit the scope of our submission to the journal's requirement. That way, we are not focused on us primarily, but we are focusing primarily on the requirements of the journal, and then we are aligning our research work to their scope. This is exactly what you need in your industry interviews. So don't try to make them realize the scope of your research work, but make sure that the scope of your work fits the scope of their problems, and you will see that your entire interviews shifting in a way where the hirers, paying attention to your answers. Okay, now with that, let's move to the next pointer, which is credibility. Okay, now in academia, credibility is primarily measured in terms of publications, and it's so important for a researcher to have publications, because hey, if you are a PhD and you don't have a publication, then are you at all a PhD? Okay, so that's the question over there. And so our mind is like this one track focused, and we are all focused on publications. But when it comes to industry, the credibility of you as a professional shifts from publications to the kind of problems you have solved in the past, the kind of processes you have improved, the time reduced, then the cost saving that you have done, the revenue generated. Now, these are all things you might have done in your PhD in a different way, which is you must have secured grants or you must have filed a patent. These are all assets you're creating for your institution, which translates to the fact that you can make an institution financially, you can contribute to the financial growth of an institution, and hence you can contribute to revenue generation. Okay, that way it translates. But then in your interview, you are again focused on the credibility of publications and not focused on time saved, cost saved, people enabled, and resources saved. So all of these are things that industry measures you as a interviewee to understand how credible you may be or how they might make the right decision by hiring you. For example, one of my community members who transitioned into Nokia as a network engineer didn't exactly know how her past research work fit into what Nokia does. And that's where we did a deep dive into what are the areas Nokia was working at through their websites, through every other research possible, through their earnings call. And we make sure that her past research is connected to what Nokia does and how that positions her to contribute to that field quickly. Okay, and this brings us to a very interesting third pointer, which is that academic interviews are past focused, whereas industry interviews are a lot future focused. What do I mean by that? Now, in your entire academic journey, the Viva, defense, and any other conference interview, conference presentation, and all of that you have been doing were all about the work that you have done in the past and was all about talking why did you make these choices and what was the result and all of that. Okay, it was never about connecting it to the future. However, when it comes to industry interviews, you need to show that how your past work enables you to do the future work that you would do in the industry for which they are hiring you, and how you would do that in their ecosystem. Okay, now for this one I have actually made a separate video which is about the what, how, who, and so what framework to use in your interviews so that you bridge this gap between how your academic past positions you for this industry role and how exactly you're going to work in their ecosystem, projecting it in the future, considering all the constraints that this industry environment might have. So one of my community members from Europe who has moved into the final round of interviews has heard back from the hirers that they loved their communication skills. However, they see that they have a wide knowledge as the interviewee and the researcher that this person is. However, they're not sure where does that fit in when it comes to applying it to the industry. And that is what they want to explore in the next call. Okay, so this brings us back to the pointer I mentioned earlier, that the interview is never about you. It is about them. And as long as you can keep it about them, their problems, their challenges, and how you are going to solve them, or what you have done in the past to solve such similar problems, you're going to crack that interview. Okay, now let's come to the fourth pointer, which is about defending the choices versus explaining the judgment. Now, what do I mean by that? In academia, again, as I mentioned, our interviews are a lot past focused, and most of the time we are defending our choices. Tell me if that's not wrong, because you want to feel safe, right? And you want to defend it, because if you cannot defend this, then maybe your whole academic research is being questioned. You may be at the verge of not receiving your PhD degree, right? So that's why you become a lot more defensive about what you have done, and you want to protect it with all your heart and mind, I'd say, right? But when it comes to industry, the moment you start defending what you have done, that doesn't really go well with the hirers in industry, because that projects you as someone who is not open-minded. That means that if something goes wrong, which is very obvious in research to happen, they might not be wanting to change their mindset, or they might be more focused on proving themselves right. Okay, and this comes across as an attitude problem. So even if you have the best of technical skills, technical depth, however, if you are coming across as someone who's very defensive about their work, then you come across as someone who is not open, who is may not be a great fit to work with the team. In fact, again, one of my community members who has been trying to get into manufacturing sectors, a technically brilliant person, but then had been rejected in final interviews in a company of had been rejected in the final interview of one of their dream companies. And in their feedback interview, by the way, if you don't know what feedback interviews are, some companies do offer you feedback, especially if you reach the final stages. So in the feedback interview, they got to learn from the hirers that the person was doing well, but they got very defensive when they were asked certain questions on certain pointers. So what defensive looks like is, I had done this because XYZ had happened. But if you were to shift that narrative to something like this, okay, I never was asked this question earlier, and hence I was never directed to think in this way. Now you have asked me this question. Can you give me a moment to think about this? You can say this, or you can rather say that I never thought in this direction. This is a great way to think about it. I'd definitely come back on this and give it a thought once we finish the interview. Okay, so either ways it's applicable, because right now you're coming across as a person who is honest, and also as a person who is willing to accept that they might not have thought about every possibility, which is humanly not possible. Okay, so that was the fourth pointer. Now let's come to the fifth pointer. Yes, I've noted down so that I don't forget it. It's the familiarity. Okay, so what do I mean by familiarity? Now, when you are in an academic system, you are familiar about every tiny detail that happens in an academic system. So when you go for a postdoc interview, it becomes a lot easier for you, because whatever you've learned in the academic system, that applies in a postdoc interview. But you go with the same playbook to an industry interview, and that doesn't work, because again, the psychology is so different. I did explain the 4 pointers as we went through this, and you cannot use the same playbook to crack something where the rules are entirely different. Okay, so that familiarity of the academic system, you want to carry it forward, because familiar feels safe. But if you want to be safe, then be rest assured that you're going to not move forward. So this is where step into the unknown, try to understand what problem the industry wants me to solve, what are the goals that they want to achieve by hiring for this role. And when you start thinking from that point, again, your interview answers become very, very different, which is again focused on them and not on you. Okay, and finally, let's come to the last pointer, which is that in academic system, when you're having your PhD defense, which is the final interview, it is actually a way to go out of the academic system, which means that now you're completely done, your dues are cleared, and everybody in academia is looking forward to you moving out of the system and stepping into the next chapters of your career. But when you are stepping into an industry transition, in the industry role, you are stepping into an interview where it's a entry point for you. Okay, and that's why the guard is really, really high, which means that people are not going to trust you very easily. And that's why you need to ensure that every touch point the industry will have with you elevates your impression every time, which means that your resume, your LinkedIn, your any other social media presence, which can be around GitHub or your portfolio or anything else, Instagram and everything, is something when assessed or analyzed only elevates your impression and doesn't give out any negative vibe about you. Because again, know that these are absolute strangers who are trying to ensure that they hire the best possible person in the team, and they're not looking forward to understanding how great this person will be in future, but they are trying to minimize risk here and asking themselves, will this person be a liability? So ensure that your digital presence is really, really strong and is working for you and not against you. At this point, I can give you 2 examples of community members for whom building a great LinkedIn has helped out immensely, wherein one community member landed an interview at Intel because of their LinkedIn presence and content creation. And the other member actually built something on Lovable and shared it on LinkedIn. And when they were invited for the interview, the hiring manager had actually visited their profile and checked out that app that they had built, and had also mentioned that in the interview that they had actually loved the thing that they had built around, because they wanted someone in the team who is AI enabled. Okay, so always position yourself for things the industry people want to see in you. So to conclude it all, your industry interview is not actually harder than your PhD defense, but if you understand the 6 pointers, that industry interview is not about you but them, the credibility markers that you show should be something that aligns with their problem. The interviews in industry are future focused and not past focused, and the hirers in industry are not judging you for what you have done, but they are judging your thought process. And number 5 is, you can't apply the academic playbook of winning interviews to industry. And finally, industry is an entry point, and these are absolute strangers interviewing you, and their guardrails are really high. So this is where your digital presence needs to be really strong to make sure they can trust you. Now, once you understand all this, the way you approach your industry interviews changes entirely, and you will see that you will be landing more offers. Now, if you are a PhD who is preparing for their industry interviews, I hope this video helped. Or if you're a PhD who knows another PhD who needs to hear this, because hey, overcoming these mistakes is easy, but if you don't, it costs you your confidence and it makes you doubt, like, what the hell have I done by doing PhD? Okay, so don't get into that mode. Rather work on these aspects and share it with any other PhD that might need it at this point. And for now, this is Smartdom PhD, Dr. Reema, signing off, and I'll see you in the next one.